You ever get that weird feeling in your gut? The kind that starts quiet, just a whisper at the back of your brain, but won't go away no matter how much you try to reason with it? That's how this started. With a gut feeling. Mia had mentioned the trip like it was nothing. She told me a few weeks back that there was going to be this architecture industry mixer down in Savannah. 2 days. Rooftop cocktail thing. Nothing major. Strictly professional, she said, twirling a spoon in her coffee like she hadn't already rehearsed the line a dozen times. It's just boring work stuff, babe. You wouldn't know anyone there anyway. And yeah, I probably wouldn't. I'm not in her world. She's the creative one, interior designer, always in with the architecture and real estate crowd. I'm just a school counselor. Different circles. Different scenes. But what bothered me wasn't that I wouldn't know anyone. It was that she didn't want me to come. Mia never turned down the chance to have me by her side. She loved showing off the fact that her husband actually had emotional intelligence. Her words, not mine. So when she suddenly wanted to go alone, something twisted in my stomach. Still, I didn't argue. I told myself I was overthinking it. We'd been married 5 years. And yeah, things had been tense lately, but nothing worth jumping to conclusions over. Right? She left on a Thursday morning. Said she'd be back Saturday afternoon. Kissed me on the cheek like everything was normal. She packed light, took our black suitcase, the one we bought on our honeymoon in Key West. I stood in the doorway and watched her pull out of the driveway, waving like some guy in a bad indie movie. I didn't realize it then, but that wave, that was me saying goodbye to something I thought was still real. Friday night came and I couldn't shake it. I tried to keep myself busy. Cleaned the house. Walked the dog twice. Rewatched old episodes of Parks and Rec. But every time my phone lit up and it wasn't her, I felt that pit in my stomach get a little deeper. She texted around 8:15. Heading to the rooftop thing soon. Long day. Exhausted, lol. That was it. No call. No pictures. Just a dry message that didn't sound like her. So I made a decision. I got in my car and started driving. It was impulsive as hell, I won't lie. I didn't even pack a bag. I threw on jeans, a jacket, and grabbed my wallet and keys. I told myself I'd just make sure everything was okay, that I'd drive back before morning. But deep down, I already knew. People say hindsight is 20/20. But when your marriage starts unraveling, your instincts sharpen fast. I got to Savannah a little after 10. The hotel was one of those new boutique places downtown. Modern and sleek with warm yellow lighting and jazz music playing in the lobby like you're stepping into a movie. I felt completely out of place. I asked the woman at the front desk if there was a rooftop event tonight. She smiled and pointed to the elevators. Just take it all the way up, she said. They're still going strong up there. The ride to the top felt like it took forever. My ears popped. My heart did too. By the time the doors opened, I wasn't sure what I was expecting. Maybe to find her standing alone, bored out of her mind, glad I showed up. But nope. The first thing I saw when I stepped out was her. Mia. My wife. She was lit up in soft orange light from one of the heat lamps, holding a wine glass, laughing, full-blown, head-back laughing, like someone had just told her the funniest story in the world. She was surrounded by 4 or 5 people, all of them dressed like they belonged on the cover of some trendy design magazine. Expensive haircuts, Rolexes. The whole scene looked like an Instagram ad for luxury networking. And right beside her was this guy. Tall, tan. That confident posture that lets you know he's used to getting what he wants. His hair was styled in that perfect way that looks effortless but definitely isn't. He was wearing a dark suit, no tie, with the top buttons undone just enough to let you know he cared about impressions. His hand, and I'll never forget this, his hand was on the small of her back, just resting there, like it belonged there, and she didn't move away. She didn't shift or lean forward or even flinch. She just kept laughing, sipping her wine, and letting him touch her like they'd been doing this for a long, long time. My feet didn't move. I just stood there by the elevator, invisible, watching the scene like it was a movie. I don't know how long I was frozen, but eventually, she saw me. And here's the part that still haunts me. Our eyes locked. Mine full of shock, hers, something else. Not panic. Not guilt. almost like recognition, like she'd known I was coming, like she wanted me to see it. She lifted her glass a little, smiling that fake smile she uses when she's irritated but trying to stay polite. Then, loud enough for half the rooftop to hear, she said, "I'm tired of being a wife." The group went awkwardly quiet for a second. Then the tall guy, Mr. Perfect Posture, put a hand on the small of her back again and gently steered her toward the exit. And she went with him. No explanation. No words. No second glance. She left with him like I wasn't even standing there. Like I didn't exist. I stayed there on that rooftop while the conversations resumed, people looking away like I was just a waiter who'd wandered into the wrong area. I remember hearing laughter from somewhere behind me, glasses clinking. The whole place moved on like nothing happened. I walked to the edge of the rooftop and leaned on the railing, trying to breathe. The city lights of Savannah stretched out below, soft and yellow, almost romantic if not for the way my world had just cracked in half. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just stood there in silence, surrounded by strangers, realizing that whatever this was, this life I thought I had, it wasn't mine anymore. She had made her choice, right there in front of everyone, and I hadn't even seen it coming. The next morning felt like waking up in someone else's life. I hadn't slept. I just lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling, replaying the rooftop over and over like some twisted highlight reel. Her voice echoing in my head. "I'm tired of being a wife." The way she smiled. The way she walked off like none of it mattered. It was like she'd rehearsed the whole damn thing. By the time the sun crept through the blinds, I felt hollow. I'd gone through every possible emotion in that dark living room. Anger, heartbreak, confusion. But by morning, all that was left was numbness. And then, around 9 a.m., the doorbell rang. I didn't move at first. Thought maybe it was a package or a neighbor. But then it rang again, longer this time. I dragged myself to the door, still wearing the same clothes from the night before. I looked through the peephole and felt my stomach turn. It was her, Mia. She wasn't holding a suitcase. No bag. No purse. Just standing there like nothing had happened. Wearing an oversized gray sweatshirt with some random logo on it. Not hers, definitely not mine. Her hair was done perfectly, curled at the ends like it had just been styled. She looked like she'd walked out of a magazine shoot and straight into my front porch. I didn't open the door all the way, just cracked it and kept the chain on. She didn't look surprised. In fact, she rolled her eyes like I was being dramatic, like I was the problem. "You're not gonna let me in?" she asked, shifting her weight like she had better things to do. I stared at her through the gap. I didn't say anything. Didn't have to. She sighed. "Mark, you're misunderstanding what happened." That's the first thing she said. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "Can we talk?" Just that. "You're misunderstanding," she repeated. Like I'd stumbled onto a bad stage play and mistaken fiction for reality. It wasn't what it looked like. I blinked. Said nothing. She crossed her arms and tilted her head in that practiced way she always did when she was about to sell a lie. "He gave me a ride," she said. "That's all. I didn't feel like Ubering, and I knew you'd freak out if I told you I was with a male coworker, so I didn't mention it. But nothing happened. I went to my friend Jenna's afterward." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because of how confidently she said it. Like she'd prepped for this. Like she'd practiced it in a mirror while curling her hair and choosing which stranger's sweatshirt to wear. "And what you heard me say," she added, her voice flattening, "that was just me being dramatic. I was performing for the crowd, trying to make a point about marriage in front of a bunch of industry people. A performance." She actually called it a performance. "You do realize," I said quietly through the chain, "that you said you were tired of being a wife while walking off with another man?" She narrowed her eyes, like I was being intentionally difficult. "Jesus, Mark. You always take everything so literally. You never trust my judgment." And there it was, the pivot. In one sentence, she went from defending herself to blaming me. I shut the door gently, left the chain on, walked back to the kitchen and sat down at the table. My hands were shaking, and I didn't know if it was rage or disbelief or both. She knocked again, just once. Then silence. 5 minutes later, I peeked out the window. She was gone. I should have felt relief. But all I felt was this strange heaviness in my chest. The kind that comes when someone you love looks you in the eyes and lies to your face like it's the easiest thing in the world. I looked down and realized I was still holding my wedding ring in my hand. I'd taken it off the night before and hadn't put it back on. Just kept rolling it between my fingers like I didn't know what to do with it. Felt wrong to wear it. But it felt even worse to let it go. That day I didn't eat. Didn't talk to anyone. I kept thinking about her showing up with her makeup done and someone else's sweatshirt, standing there like I had overreacted. She wanted me to believe that it was all in my head, that I didn't see what I saw, that I hadn't heard what I heard. But the thing is, once you see something clearly, you can't unsee it, no matter how badly you want to. That night, I sat on the back porch alone with a beer in my hand, and I kept repeating her words under my breath like some kind of curse. You're misunderstanding. It was a performance. You never trust my judgment. No apology. No remorse. No moment of I screwed up. Just theater. And me? I was done being in the audience. The thing about the truth is, once it starts unraveling, you can't stop it. It comes in pieces at first. A glance that lingers too long. A laugh that feels hollow. A story that doesn't line up. But eventually, it crashes in all at once. I didn't go looking for it at first. I wanted to believe I'd misunderstood. That maybe she was just being dramatic. That maybe this was some kind of midlife identity crisis that would pass. But the lie she fed me the day after the rooftop, that ridiculous little monologue about him giving her a ride and her just being performative, stuck in my brain like a splinter. I kept turning it over, examining the edges, trying to make it fit. But it didn't. It didn't feel right. It didn't sound like her, or at least not the version of her I used to know. A few days after she came to the door, I found myself in the garage. I'd gone out there to look for a wrench, something small, something stupid, but my eyes landed on the car. Our car. The one she'd driven to Savannah. The one she claimed he only gave her a ride in. I stared at it for a long time before opening the driver's side door. The seat was still adjusted for her height. Her water bottle was in the cup holder. Her favorite playlist was queued up on the stereo, that same indie folk stuff she used to hum along to when we drove to the mountains. Nothing seemed unusual until I opened the back door. There, crumpled on the floor beneath a blanket, was a man's dress shirt. It was light blue, wrinkled, obviously worn. Expensive looking. Definitely not mine. I picked it up slowly, like it might burn me. It smelled faintly of cologne, the kind that smells too clean, like it's trying to cover something up. I held it for a moment, stunned, then opened the glove compartment without really thinking. Inside was a pair of earrings. Silver. Dangly. Nothing fancy, but definitely not Mia's style. I had never seen her wear them. Ever. That's when I remembered something. Months ago, someone had tried to break into our car. It wasn't serious, just a busted lock, nothing taken. But it had rattled me enough that I installed a small, hidden dash cam. One of those motion sensor cameras that records when the car is in use, looping old footage every 48 hours. I never told Mia about it because I didn't think she'd care. It was my way of protecting what we had. Turns out, it protected something else. I went back inside and grabbed my laptop, pulled the memory card from the camera and loaded the last usable files. My heart pounded as the folder opened. I felt like I was opening a door that couldn't be closed again. There she was, Mia, in that same tight black dress from the rooftop, sliding into the driver's seat, adjusting the mirror like she had all the time in the world. And then, seconds later, he appeared. The same guy, the one from the rooftop. He got in on the passenger side, leaned over and kissed her, right there, in our car. His hand cupped the side of her face like he'd done it 1,000 times before. She laughed. This soft, real laugh I hadn't heard from her in months, and kissed him back. Then the two of them just sat there for a while, talking. Her foot was up on the dashboard like she used to do with me, like she was comfortable, like this was their spot. Our spot. I remembered the times we'd sat there after grocery runs, watching the rain hit the windshield, playing music and talking about nothing. The times she'd reached across and held my hand in that exact seat. And now here she was, handing those memories over to someone else. I paused the video and just sat there, staring at the frozen image on the screen. I wasn't shocked. Not anymore. No, what I felt was confirmation. Cold. Heavy. Final. She'd looked me in the eye and lied. Not just lied, but crafted a story, delivered it like a trained actress, and expected me to buy it. Expected me to nod along, like some dumb, loyal husband who just needed a good bedtime story to sleep at night. But this wasn't a story anymore. This was proof. I closed the laptop, walked back out to the garage and opened the trunk. Tossed the shirt and the earrings in a bag and shoved it under the workbench. I didn't know why I kept them. Maybe I thought I'd need them one day, in court, or just to remind myself I wasn't crazy. For the rest of the night, I didn't speak to anyone. Didn't call a friend. Didn't cry. I sat on the porch and stared out at the street, thinking about how strange it was that life could change so violently while everything outside stayed the same. The neighborhood was quiet. Lights were on across the street. Someone was walking their dog. And here I was, watching the foundation of my marriage rot from the inside out. The truth wasn't something I could ignore anymore. It had become a fact. A thing. Physical. Tangible. Smelling faintly of cologne and betrayal. She cheated on me. In our car. In our songs. In our life. And now, the only question left was, what was I going to do with that truth? When I finally confronted her, I thought, maybe stupidly, that it would matter. That having the truth in my hands would pierce through whatever performance she was still clinging to. That she'd break. That she'd admit it. That maybe we could get somewhere, even if that place was ugly. But people like Mia don't break. They bend the truth until it becomes whatever they need it to be in the moment. It happened a few days after I watched the footage. She came back to the house again. This time, she didn't knock. She used her key. I was in the kitchen when I heard the door open, and I can still remember the sound of her heels on the hardwood floor. Slow, deliberate, like she was walking into a meeting she planned to control. "Mark?" she called, like it was her house, like nothing had changed. I didn't answer at first. I wanted to see how long she'd pretend. She walked into the kitchen and paused when she saw me sitting at the table with the laptop in front of me. Her eyes flicked to it, and she knew. She didn't have to ask. "What's this?" she said, pointing, trying to sound annoyed, not scared. I didn't say anything, just clicked play. There it was. The footage. Her and the guy in the car, laughing, kissing, touching like they'd done it before and planned to do it again. I let the video play for 10 seconds. Then 20. She stood there, frozen. Her mouth opened like she might say something. And then, like a switch, she changed. "You went through the car?" she said, voice sharp. "You recorded me?" That's where she went first. Not regret. Not apology. Accusation. "You installed a camera without telling me? That's insane, Mark. That's not normal. That's controlling." Controlling. I nearly laughed. I just watched her cheat, and somehow I was the bad guy for catching it. "I installed it when someone tried to break in," I said. "Months ago. You knew that." She waved a hand, pacing now. "It doesn't matter." Still creepy. "You don't trust me." That one stopped me cold. I stared at her for a second, trying to process how someone could nize that sentence after everything. "I don't trust you?" I said, quieter now. "You lied. You cheated. You walked out with another man and told a rooftop full of people you were done being a wife. And I'm the one with the trust issues." That's when she pivoted again. Her voice softened. She sat down across from me, hands folded like we were at marriage counseling. "Mark, you've always been intense. You care so much. But sometimes it feels like you smother me. I didn't want to hurt you. I just needed space." He listened. That's all. It wasn't love, it wasn't real. I felt free around him. Free. She said that like our marriage had been a prison. Like I was the warden. "You weren't locked in," I said. "You could have walked out any time. But instead, you snuck around like a coward." She flinched, but only for a second. Then came the tears. Right on cue. God, I wanted them to be real. I wanted to believe those tears meant something. That maybe she regretted it. That some part of her missed what we had. But I knew better. They weren't tears of guilt. They were tears of inconvenience. Her story had cracked, and now she was scrambling to rebuild it. "I didn't plan for it to go that far," she whispered. "You have to believe me." I stared at her. "I don't have to believe anything anymore." That's when the mask slipped. For a flash, I saw it, the contempt under the performance. The same look she had on the rooftop when she shouted that line. It was all theater. She wasn't trying to save the marriage. She was trying to save face. "You're just punishing me," she said. "You're trying to make me feel bad, so you can feel better." "No," I said. "I'm trying to end this without hating you." That silenced her. For a long moment, she didn't speak. Then, she stood up, wiped her face, and walked toward the door. But before she left, she turned around and said, "You'll regret pushing me away. No one else will love you the way I did." And with that, she walked out. No apology. No remorse. Just a final twist of the knife. I stood there for a long time after the door closed. Not angry. Not hurt. Just done. That was the day I stopped trying to make sense of her. She wasn't confused. She wasn't in crisis. She was manipulative. She'd been rewriting the narrative since the moment I caught her on that rooftop. Gaslighting, deflecting, twisting reality until I didn't know which way was up. But I knew now. I knew exactly who she was. And I wasn't going to be part of her show anymore. When you sit across from someone you once loved, really loved, and hear them make demands like a stranger, it does something to your brain. It numbs you, or maybe it hardens you. By the time we got to mediation, I was past the point of shock. Past the bargaining, the questioning, the hope. There wasn't a version of this where Mia turned around, broke down, and told the truth. I knew that now. This part, the divorce, was just the cleanup. We met at a mediator's office downtown. Neutral territory. Beige walls, lukewarm coffee, and the kind of silence that buzzes in your ears when no one wants to make the first move. She walked in wearing a light gray suit like she was heading to a job interview, not the final act of our marriage. Hair pulled back tight, minimal jewelry, not even a hint of perfume, like she'd read a guide on how to look composed while dismantling your life. Her lawyer was already there. Some guy named Preston with gelled hair and a smugness you could smell before he spoke. He greeted her like an old friend, then gave me the briefest nod. A formality, nothing more. My lawyer, Rachel, was the opposite. Direct, no nonsense, and allergic to bullsh**T. She had a binder full of evidence and a pen that clicked like a countdown. We sat across from each other at the long oak table. No how are yous, no small talk, just silence, and then the mediator's carefully measured voice. "So," she said, "we're here to work through division of assets and ensure a smooth path forward for both parties." I almost laughed at that, smooth path forward. Like we were settling a business dispute, not dissolving a life built over 5 years of birthdays, road trips, sick days, Sunday mornings. But I said nothing. Then Mia spoke, calmly, like she was reading a script. "I believe I'm entitled to 50% of the house," she said. "We bought it together." I glanced at Rachel. She gave me a small nod. We'd expected that. "I also want the car," Mia added with zero irony. The car. The same one where I caught her cheating on camera. "And reimbursement for the design studio I gave up when I moved into Mark's neighborhood." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "You mean the studio you sublet by choice? Because you said the commute was too long?" Mia didn't flinch. "I made a sacrifice for the relationship. I think that counts." Preston jumped in. "We're requesting a lump sum in addition to the physical assets." "Emotional damages. Career disruption." Rachel cut him off. "That's not how this works." The mediator held up a hand. "Let's keep this productive." I didn't say much. I didn't need to. Rachel opened the binder and started laying things out. **TS of texts. Dated receipts from hotels. A detailed timeline built around footage from the car, credit card charges, GPS logs. She presented them calmly, without venom, just fact after fact after fact. Mia didn't react. She didn't cry. She didn't deny it. She didn't even blink. It was like she'd already rehearsed her expression for this exact moment. Cool, collected, untouched, the perfect mask. The mediator turned to Mia. "Do you dispute any of this?" Mia shook her head. "No. But none of it changes the fact that we shared a life. I contributed. I supported him through tough years. I wanted to ask her which years those were, the ones where I packed her lunches and picked her up from late-night work dinners, or the ones where I paid the bills while she found herself on weekend retreats with her friends. But I didn't, because this wasn't about truth. It was about leverage. She didn't come here to admit anything. She came here to win. And the scariest part? She was good at it. She spun her words with just enough poise to sound reasonable. She framed herself not as a cheater but as a woman who made a few bad choices while navigating the pressures of a complicated life. She wanted sympathy, not from me, from the room, from the process, from the system that decides who gets what when the love runs out. When it came time to counter, Rachel spoke firmly. She outlined the assets I was offering, my half of the furniture, a fair share of our joint savings, and a car that wasn't the scene of betrayal. We weren't being cruel. We were being clear. And still, Mia stared at me like I was robbing her. No apology. No gratitude. Not even a flicker of humanity. Just calculation. When the mediator asked if either of us had anything else to say before wrapping the session, Mia finally turned to me. Not her lawyer. Not the mediator. Me. She looked me in the eyes. And I swear, for a second, there was something behind the mask. Not regret. Not pain. Defiance. "I hope," she said slowly, "that one day you see this for what it really is." I wanted to ask what that was supposed to mean. A defense? A warning? A confession? But instead I said nothing. Because I did see it. I saw it all. This wasn't a woman falling apart. This was a woman dismantling a life with surgical precision, and expecting applause when the job was done. When we left the building, I watched her walk away with Preston, her heels clicking on the tile, her face unreadable. It didn't feel like victory. It didn't feel like closure. It felt like a Cold War, paused for paperwork. And I wasn't sure which one of us lost more. A few days later, I got a message from him, James, the guy from the rooftop. It was short, apologetic. Said Mia told him she was divorced, that I was abusive. Said he felt sick when he found out the truth. "She lies like she's telling you the weather," he wrote. I walked away when I realized I was just part of her script. Later, Claire, one of Mia's friends, showed up at my door. We hadn't spoken in months. She looked tired, like carrying someone else's secrets had finally worn her down. "She does this," Claire said quietly. "She wrecks the house, then walks out of the fire like she's the one who got burned." That's when it hit me. She wasn't chasing freedom. She was chasing a story where she's never the villain, just the girl who needed saving. A month later, she walked into my office like she still belonged there. No knock, no call. Just stood in the doorway with that same rehearsed sadness. "I have nowhere else to go," she said. I didn't get up. I didn't yell. Just looked at her and said, "You've already lost everything. I'm not yours to come back to." She didn't argue, didn't cry. She just turned and left. The sound of her heels echoed down the hallway like a period at the end of a sentence. That was the last time I saw her. The only thing she left behind? A post-it note on the fridge. "One day you'll thank me." I framed it, tucked it in a drawer, not as a reminder of her but of who I was, and who I'll never be again.